Hello everyone, good afternoon. This is Mugello, this is Ferrari Finale Mondiale, and this is Ferrari Challenge. Asia Pacific about to take to the track for their final 30-minute race of their championship season. Of course, there is still the world final races to come tomorrow, but in terms of the Asia Pacific Ferrari Challenge, it finishes here with this 30-minute race. Copa AM Championship has been won by Andrew Moon. Trofeo Pirelli AM Championship has been won by Philippe Pret. However, the Copa Championship can still go one of four ways. We've been to Melbourne, to Sepang in Malaysia, Shanghai, Motegi, Fuji, Singapore, and here we are to round out the season in Mugello. What a fantastic calendar it has been for the Asia Pacific series of the Ferrari Challenge. There you can see, centre picture is our safety car driver, Beppe Scanetti, former Ferrari Challenge champion, and boy, he can still pedal a car. I've had the privilege of having a lap around a circuit with Beppe Scanetti, and as I say, boy, he can still drive. Mugello then, we're just under an hour from Florence, maybe an hour and 10 from Bologna, depending on how keen you are on the loud pedal of your rental car. And it's a 5.245 kilometre circuit with 14 turns, 6 left, 8 right. Sector 1 contains 3 of them. Sector 2, 6, and Sector 3, 5 turns. It's one of those circuits that offers limited opportunities sometimes for overtaking, and you really need to provoke a mistake from the car ahead of you to get alongside and get past. It's a very, very long straight from the Puccini turn, the final turn, turn number 14, through to the San Donato turn, which is turn number 1. Beautiful conditions, 24 degrees our air temperature. The track temperature a little below, and there you can see the lighting gantry, and the car's about to be unleashed. The number 424 car of Gomax, who was good yesterday, that's for sure. Will he be able to do the same today? He goes from P2. Philippe Pret goes from P1 on the grid. Gomax going from P2 on the grid. It was very, very close in qualifying, but Gomax was just bested by Philippe Pret, who takes that pole position. Philippe Pret, of course, is the Trofeo Pirelli AM champion and the very car that we look at right now. Max Blancardi, driver coach alongside him. Max Blancardi, another former Ferrari Challenge champion. Philippe Pret, for a number of years, has competed in the Asia Pacific series of the Ferrari Challenge. And before we introduce you to our guest driver alongside us for this race, let's take a look at the region of Tuscany. So our little postcard, if you like, welcoming you to the Tuscan region here in Mugello and also to the Ferrari Challenge. As I mentioned, we'll introduce our guest driver alongside us, who's no stranger to race wins and no stranger to championships and no stranger to microphones either. Tony Verlander, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
It's been a successful season, 2 times champion, you've done well.
Yeah, it's been a busy season, a lot of races in US, some duties with the TV commentary, as you mentioned, with the Finnish broadcast on Formula 1 races. So it's been nice, busy year. We are towards the off season now, and nice to enjoy the family as well after this weekend.
Hope so. Great to have you with us, Tony.
Thank you.
We will take a look at race number 1 for Asia Pacific, which took place yesterday. And here come the highlights then, as the cars made their way onto the grid in weather conditions yesterday that were an awful lot better than we had seen in terms of the quali day, where it was pretty much rain, or free practice day, I should say. So as the cars were unleashed, it was all drama right at the front of the pack to begin with as they went into turn number 1, and you could see the anxiety with some of the teams then as they looked on. But the 424 car of Gomax was going for it. No question about that. Yambin Zing in the 563 car found the gravel, as did a number of cars during the course of the race, and then this battle would ensue. And what a battle it was going to be. You try everything to get past the car in front, including, just on a couple of occasions, a little love tap. Does that help? Well, for Ray Wu, it didn't help. And eventually, Ray Wu found himself in the barriers, in the gravel, and in the grass as well. And that meant the safety car would come out. And von Skeltermar looked on from the European series of the Ferrari Challenge. And unfortunately, Tony, the race would finish under the safety car, which is never the way you want to take a checkered flag, is it?
Yeah, we've seen this weekend a few safety cars. There's been a lot of action on the racetrack. And as you mentioned in the presentation, the character of this racetrack is quite tricky. It takes a lot from the driver, first of all, to be fast. But in the racing, it's not easy to find the place to overtake. And if the guy in front of you is blocking or defending his place really aggressively, and then the patience runs out from the guy behind, then we often see the contacts. And it's been a little bit the drama and the way of this weekend. We've seen a little bit too many contacts, and that's why the result of the safety car has been out there for a few occasions.
And I guess, Tony, and you know, you're a hugely successful racing driver, you know, it's when you do begin to get frustrated behind somebody, you know you're clearly quicker, but you can't get by. It must be, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's when you have to, you know, you've got a special switch in your brain which says, do you know what, Tony, I'll just ease off here because it's not worth it. It's not worth taking that risk.
Yeah, but the championship comes to an end, and that's when the temperature rises inside the helmet, and that's when you start doing mistakes as well.
How must this man be feeling? Because Makoto Fujiwara, he sits on 176 points. That's only 2 ahead of Kazuyuki Yamaguchi. There are 4 drivers that could take this Copa Shell Championship. Makoto Fujiwara, we've just mentioned, Kazuyuki Yamaguchi, Yanbin Xing and Michael Choi. There's 21 points still available. There's 20 points deficit between the top 4.
Yeah, and this is definitely the moment when you see the difference, the way drivers behave on the racetrack during the race. There are drivers that want to take that championship straight away, want to do the decisive moves early in the race, yes. And then it's the patience. Maybe the patience will win. Maybe the too aggressive approach will have the, let's say, bad way to finish the race. But this is the most interesting time of the season, when you actually do the final race and you are yet to decide the champion. So really, really exciting times for these drivers.
Fujiwara will be starting ahead of his contenders in the championship. He goes from P4 on the grid. It's actually P1 within class. Then it's Yanbin Xing and Michael Choi. The one that's perhaps out of position is the man that's P2 in the championship. We're talking about Copa Shell, and that's Kazuki Yamaguchi, who didn't qualify so well and actually goes from P9 on the grid. So he's the one that's got to work hardest and try and make some moves early on, but he's got to overtake all 3 contenders ahead of him, and that's going to be a big ask, Tony.
Yeah, the first thing is the start. We've seen this weekend the lights go off fairly late, so the group is really attached together, and coming to the first corner, we've seen many times 4 cars side by side, and going to the first corner, which is straight, followed by a chicane, fast speed chicane, turns 1, 2, 3, and that's a really tricky part. And around places between 7 to 12, so between rows 3 to 5, that's where a lot of action happens.
Race start is just a few moments away. So we have the mix of Trofeo Pirelli AM and Shell drivers and Shell AM drivers. Where the championship is still to be decided is within those Shell drivers who, as Tony correctly identified, they're all together and they're all in a pack together from the second row of the grid. So rows 2, 3, 4 and 5, that's where the action is probably going to come from. And as you correctly identified, for some reason it does seem to be this particular weekend, from the safety car peeling off into the pit lane, 'cause it's always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge, to when we see the lighting gantry go from red to green, it does seem to have been a long time this weekend. It must be much longer for you if you're a racing driver and you just want to get going, but from up here it does look like they've been held for a period of time.
Yeah, and that's the fact that creates an extra pressure for the start, because drivers really want to go, and when the group is really together and there's no spaces between the cars, and that's when the pressure and the tight moments comes and happens coming into turn one. But on the other hand, it's part of the racing. You need to stay calm. You cannot have a jump start. You cannot play yourself out early in the race. So you need to be calm, ready to react when the lights go off. And just the view and the pictures we saw earlier, it's just been a great weekend, great weather. And seems like every year this event is bigger. It's more things to look at outside racing, and great action on racetrack, with the challenge cars racing, with the FXX program, with the Corsa Clienti and F1 cars. So
yes,
it's been a great weekend.
You're right, and it's like a mini village in the paddock. You're
Exactly.
so right. You know, you come here, you enjoy the racing, but there is so much equally to do. And Brian and myself were only saying a little while ago that actually this is Saturday of the weekend. We still have Sunday to come. It's the biggest crowd I think I've seen on a Saturday at Finale Mondiale for a long time.
Yeah, and we're waiting a big crowd for tomorrow as well. The weather looks great, and great action. We're going to have a GT car exhibition, little show. We're going to have F1 cars and with pro drivers showing around. So there's a lot of action, a lot of things to see, as we said, on the racetrack, but also outside. We can see the new car models, and we can see a lot of stuff outside inside the paddock and outside of racing.
It is all part of the Finale Mondiale experience. We're on board with the Hublot safety car, or we were, and the cars will be told by the marshal as they run through the final chicane, the Biondetti chicane, which is turn number 13. That's where they will be asked to grid up side-by-side formation. There you can see the marshals both sides of the track, and the boards that they're holding are telling the drivers to go side by side, and they will bunch up really tight, and then it will be around the Puccini turn. The final turn, turn number 14, you run downhill, then that long drag strip almost from turn 14 through to turn number 1. We let the music build the anticipation and the excitement for Asia Pacific Race 2 in the Ferrari Challenge. So the cars round the Puccini turn then, and now they begin to climb uphill. We throw the lights to the top left-hand side of the screen for you. As the cars head towards that lighting gantry, you can see how keen Philippe Pret is to get going. They're not absolutely side by side. The race director may choose to look at the start of the race, but we get a green flag and the cars get away, and they all scream uphill now, and there you can see them riding the crest and heading into turn number 1, where you begin to climb once again uphill the Sant'Anato turn. This Mugello circuit is undulating. There are elevation changes. You climb, you descend. And already under pressure from the 424 car of Go Max is Philippe Pret. Philippe Pret leads from Go Max. Then it is Nobira Imada. And already, Tony, you've picked up David Dicker involved in that.
Yeah, coming out of turn 1, there's a contact. I think was a driver's a little bit further back in the field, and a contact. 3 cars involved, and at least one definitely cannot keep going. So for the start, the formation looked really good before the last turn, and after that, not a super formation. The cars were a little bit looking for the road, looking for overtaking opportunities earlier on. So let's see what the race direction says about the start. Normally you would see side by side a straight line, and now we could see 3-4 cars out of the formation. And once again, we have the safety car call.
Before even a lap is completed. Now, was that an overtake under the safety car?
Yeah, that really looked like the 5, 6, 8 overtook a car.
That's Jan Binzing, of course.
Yeah, with yellow flags and safety car call.
Now that car, Tony, the 511 car, is the car of Michael Choi, and that means he's out now of this championship contention because he's not going to be able to continue. Beg your pardon, that's Andrew Moon. Well, Andrew Moon has already won his championship, so I apologise, but Michael Choi was involved in that incident. And there you can see that is the Michael Choi car, the 5AA car, which that did get going again, but that still takes him out of championship contention because he's right at the back of the pack now. mind you, that after saying that, there could be other things that happen during the course of the race. And I also think we saw Yan Benzing where it looked like a slam dunk overtake under the safety car, so that's going to affect him if he picks up a penalty, of course. And there you can see walking away from the car from hero to zero, and it happens very quickly, doesn't it, in motor racing? You know, he's won the championship, but he's completed not even one lap of the last race of the season.
Yeah, obviously it's a big disappointment. There's goes a lot of preparation by the team and also for the driver. It's an exciting moment before the start. The adrenaline is up, the heartbeat is up, and then to be out of the race after a turn and a half is obviously frustrating. But on the other hand, he's the champion, so at least that's a reason to enjoy.
Of course. And there you can see the 588 car, which I was alluding to, of Michael Choi. Michael Choi, who came into this some 20 points down in terms of the Copa Shell Championship. Regrettably, it doesn't look like the car is repairable. Michael Choi is out of the car, and therefore he is not going to be going for the championship. He was P4. He was some 20 points down, so it was always going to be a big ask. But however big the ask, it's not a possibility now. Michael Choi is out of the race. So safety car then before even a lap has been completed. And from an adrenaline point of view, Tony, how does that make you feel? Because you've psyched yourself up for the start of the race, and you don't even get a lap done before the safety car is out, and you've got to kind of calm yourself down and just go through that routine of trying to keep some temperature into those tires and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for the drivers that are out, it's like you said, like a hero to zero moment quickly, and it's like an empty feeling. There's still high heartbeat, and you're still ready to race, and you're suddenly out. And here we see the replay of the start, and cars are side by side in a formation of 3 to 4 cars. So I think that start will be reviewed as well. Normally you should have 2 clear lines. And also some requests for the safety car, and I think the overtaking, at least what we saw under safety car, will be reviewed. So a lot of action. Yesterday, by the way, I was at the race direction to give a little bit of advice and give my opinion. There's a lot of things going on.
Yes.
It's impressive to see how they can see and replay everything. We could see multiple angles.
Yes.
We could see the start, we could see the accidents, and if from the other angle it looks no further action, we put another view and it looks like the other car ran into. So there's a lot of things going on, and not an easy task for the race direction as well.
And that's really interesting to hear that, because that's something that Ferrari have introduced for the last couple of years, and that is to put a driver's representative into race control, and you've done that. And actually, as a racing driver, Tony, does it give you a different perspective?
Yeah, it's useful. I was about to say that it's useful. First of all, respect to the people who work there, because it's not easy to make the decision. Somebody in the end will be disappointed, and so it's in somebody else's favor. But at the same time, it shows that there's no real way to escape. If you do a mistake, it will be pointed out. So
yes.
It's useful in that perspective to see that, you know, you need to behave in the right way by the rules on the racetrack, related to the start, related to the overtaking, no contacts, no pushing out people. So if you do a mistake and you destroy somebody else's race, it will be pointed out, and penalty or drive through and things like that will happen.
Well, so it's clearly safety car there, and that overtake by the 568 car of Yan Benzing. From our angle, from looking at that, we've got the instruction, we've got the safety car board on our screen, therefore it must be being replicated around the track. To me, that looks like it was a clear problem, and of course Yan Benzing is P3 in the points. What confuses me, and I hope, Tony, with your huge experience in motor racing, you'll be able to explain this for me. It says on our message board, safety car period under investigation. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's related to that, because if the message is out there on our screen saying that safety car is on, so we are in the safety car period, and that overtaking must be one of those situations that will be reviewed. And the most critical time is normally right there, when the boards are out saying SC, when the message is there. So also teams should react in really quickly, giving the message by radio to the driver. So drivers are racing, you don't always see all the marshals posts. They are not in the straight of the view of the driver. They're not straight on the racing line or where you can point them out. And the first 10 to 20 seconds are normally the really crucial ones, where you where you need to send a message to the driver saying like, you need to back off, no overtaking, and safety car message is out. So I think that being reviewed, I think it's clearly for the first 10 to 20 seconds of the safety car announcement that the drivers did not overtake in that time.
Because you make a fair point. You know, you're completely focused. You are absolutely almost tunnel vision into your race. And of course, it's not easy to see every marshal post. And as you say, they're not in your line of vision. And therefore, it is excusable, is it not, on occasions that sometimes it's questionable?
Yeah, you need to react. You need to be able to, I mean, if you see a driver in front of you slowing down, there's two options. Either has a technical issue or there is a call for safety car or something happening in front of the car. So that's why you need to react, and it always doesn't mean that let's go flat out and overtake the other driver. You need to be ready to moderate your speed as well and to react what's happening on track. And if you suddenly are able to overtake multiple cars or cars in front of you, there's normally a reason for that. So let's see what the call will be from the race direction. But as I said, it will be busy times because there was the accident, there's the safety car, and even things happening under safety car. So I think in the next couple of laps, while we go green in the end of this lap, I think on the next couple of racing laps, we will see some messages coming to the screen saying about penalties.
Sure. So safety car coming in this lap. And that also means, and there is an expression in motor racing, Tony, that safety cars breed more safety cars, because what this does is, of course, it bunches everyone up once again, doesn't it? And the adrenaline starts to flow again. It is a race restart almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And there is also different factors. So basically now we see some cars weaving around, so they try to put some temperature on the tires and clean the tires, because you pick up the stuff on the racetrack while you are not going full racing speed. So there will be some differences in the performance coming to the first braking zone, coming the first 2 to 3 corners. After one lap, everything is more settled, but there's some difference in drivers, how they get up to speed. And normally you should keep the distance to the car in front of you. And like we see now, the 555 is further back.
Yes.
So even that thing can cause a problem. So here we go, back to racing.
Yeah, let's go green, and Philippe Pret has managed to gap Go Max a little bit. It was Ray Wu that we were looking at, who was not keeping up with the pace of the rest of the cars on that restart, if you like. So here comes the top three then. Philippe Pret, Go Max, and Nobuhiro Imada, who are P1, 2, and 3. A very interesting line from Go Max there through turn number 1. He takes a wide line. That's almost banked, isn't it, turn 1?
Yeah, that's what was down to the tires and the temperature. Go Max had a little issue, a little oversteering moment going into turn 1. We could see some black marks left on the racetrack, and that's why he had to choose a wider line to keep the car on the road, and then he was back to the normal racing line.
So Makoto Fujiwara then is P2 at the moment. Already some overtakes going on, and the 525 car goes through, and that's Jay Park. And drive-through penalty for overtaking under the safety car has been awarded to car number 568, and that's Jan Benzing. So, Tony, as you alluded, that was a slam dunk, wasn't it?
Yeah, not a good thing. This driver was fighting for the championship. He was P3 coming into this race too in the overall standings, and not a good thing. So the drivers who were P4 and P3 in standings are basically out of the contention for the championship, and 2 drivers left.
And from Jan Bin's perspective, Tony, a lesson there probably learned is, actually, do you know what? The race and or the championship isn't necessarily won in the first couple of laps in any event.
Yeah, that's what we discussed before the start. So there's the patience, and there's being over aggressive or being over anxious to do the moves early on in the race. Sort of mix of doing things too fast and being a little bit desperate, and that's why 2 drivers already out. Two out of 4 that were fighting for the championship are out.
And that's a great shame, and that is the Copashel Championship, which is still up for grabs, the Copashel AM and also the Trofeo Pirelli AM Championship. They've already been sorted. Andrew Moon, regrettably, is out of this race, but Philippe Pret, as you can see, sets the fastest lap, and he leads the race, a 1:54.655 for Philippe Pret. There, the number 452 car of Nobuhiro Imada, who's running in P3 at the moment. They're chasing down the car of Go Max, and Go Max already has been gapped by 1.5 seconds by this man, Philippe Pret, who, his son, Louis Pret, who raced in the European Series, and that was the race just before ours, lost out on the championship by 1 single point. Philip Pret already having sealed his championship. He chooses to race in the Asia Pacific Series. And, well, there we can see Makoto Fujiwara, who goes into this leading that Copa Shell Championship. And, of course, he's doing everything he needs to do, Tony, and that's providing he finishes in front of those that are chasing him. He's got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it was a clean restart. You can see drivers in the front having a real good pace straight away. And with the colder tires and the first racing lap, you can do the difference. You can really outpace the other drivers, and that we can see from the leaders that they are straight into racing rhythm. Another couple of laps and the tire temps are up, and then it's more normal situation, and then there's less gap between the drivers. From my times of Mugello, we can also see that in the chicanes the curbs are lower.
Yes.
The drivers are really cutting and using the whole racetrack, not only in the exit of the corners, but also like cutting the racing line really aggressively. I think the curbs are more MotoGP style, so that allows the drivers in a GT car, in a challenge car, to really cut straight.
Tony, a question if I may, and that is, does it take more than 1 lap to warm the tyres up to the temperature that you need them to be? Is it 1 lap? Is it 2 laps before you get them into the window?
It takes a half a lap to a lap to clean them up.
Yes.
To have a clean tire, have a grip, and then it takes another couple of laps to reach the target of the pressure, and then the tire pressure stays more or less there. But to have an optimum situation is the second to third lap, and yeah.
And we see another incident, and there we can see off is the 586 car. The 586 car of Min Xiao, and David Dicker, it looks like, is coming into the pit lane as well. David Dicker, who was involved in that first incident. So David Dicker there on the inside, and there's just a little bit of contact now from that camera angle. That's impossible to tell. That's a proper T-bone, Tony.
Yeah, we saw similar situations yesterday. So this is the last corner, and some of the drivers take really wide line, so go all the way to the right while they turn in. So it opens the door to a driver who is tight line and inside, and then the outside driver cuts in, cuts the line, and then when the contact happens. It wasn't a big hit. It wasn't a huge accident, but it spun around the other driver, and yeah, unfortunate to see. But you know, when you go that wide coming into the corner, there's the attention to the driver who is choosing a tight line, that there's an overtaking opportunity.
That, through those chicanes, that's exactly what you were telling me a few moments ago. It almost says to me, liberties are being taken with track limits, because Philippe Pret threw that car over the lower sausage curbs and the rumble strips. My goodness me, he straight lined that chicane.
Yeah, it's same situation for everybody, but obviously drivers always seek for that extra performance, seek for that extra improvement of lap time, and the chicanes, if you can carry more speed through these, you carry the whole back straight, more speed towards the last corner, and it's all seen straight away on the lap time. So that's why drivers choose to be aggressive, and it's the way to go. I mean, in the briefing, you normally set the notes, you set the benchmark, what is the track limit, what is allowed to the drivers, and
yes.
And we haven't seen any of the calls about track limits, or at least I haven't seen during the weekend. So this is allowed and it's safe for everybody, but you can see that the fastest drivers are really using the track all the way, not only in the exit but also in the tighter chicanes.
This track, though, Mugello, which you know well, and although the curbs may have been lowered a little bit, this is one of those tracks where you give it 100%. The moment you give it 101%, it bites you on the bottom if you get it wrong, Tony.
Yeah, it's a really special track. It goes there with Spa, it goes there with many of the racetracks in the US, so the elevation changes and the effort you need to put in. If you are down to 80, the lap time won't be there. You need to be 100%. But it gives you a great feeling. Arrabbiata 1 and 2, you feel the car squeezes to the racetrack, and basically more speed you carry, the better feeling the race car gives you. And yeah, then the other side is, if you are too aggressive, you want to take too much, this track can really bite you quickly. So we've seen a lot of action this weekend. We've seen drivers being over aggressive, and it's straightaway accident. We saw some wild action in the E56 program and even with the F1 cars.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a racetrack that is a great place to be. Track days and track activities like these weekends are huge, but you need to know where you're at and you need to pace yourself.
Understood. Well, battle going on here that we pick up on now with just under 13 minutes of the race duration remaining. We always race to time in Ferrari Challenge. It's a 30-minute duration race, and we have a drive-through penalty being awarded to car number 586. So car number 586 picks up a drive-through penalty. Also picking up a drive-through penalty, Yanbin Singh. We were aware of that from earlier on. But the 586 car of Min Xiao picks up a drive-through penalty. And also the 588 car of Michael Choi with that drive-through penalty as well, which is academic because Michael Choi is in the pit lane in any event. So, you know, the race stewards are doing their job and they're reviewing everything they can. And as you mentioned, Tony, you know, they have so many more camera angles available to them. And if it's something that you and I looks like it's a completely fair thing, actually, when you look at it from a different angle, it gives you a completely different perspective. The battle for P1 is between Ray Wu and Iritani here. Iritani is running in P2 at the moment. Ray Wu, who's had to have various new panels on the car following some damage yesterday, being chased by Iritani. This is in the Copa Shell AM race. Of course, the big championship race is in Copa Shell, which is being led by Makoto Fujiwara, who's P4 on track at the moment. But that means he's P1 within class, and Yanbin Singh is P2, Kazuyuki Yamaguchi is P3, and Jay Park is P4. So we're into the final 12 minutes of this race, and the cars have gapped out pretty sufficiently, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, after the safety car, all the drivers are up to their pace, and yeah, that clears out some gap between the drivers.
We have cars returning, of course, from drive-through penalties, and I did notice that David Dicker was in the pit lane. It looked like they were going to get that car back out again, which would be good to see. You mentioned earlier on that Mugello can be, the car can really reward you if you get the Mugello circuit right. Now, for you, fit as a fiddle, professional racing driver, physically, it's quite a demanding track. You don't get many opportunities to relax, do you?
Yeah, that is correct. You need to have the right flow. You need to have the right rhythm. You need to trust your race car to be able to take it to the limit. But basically, the back straight and the front straight are the only places where you actually get some rest, or you can ease off a little bit. Coming out of turn 1 all the way to Arrabbiatas and then to the last part of the track it's just a continuous corner. Just you need to ride along with your race car, and as I said, need confidence. There are drivers that struggle at Spa. There are drivers that struggle at Mugello. For me, Spa is always a bit difficult. It takes a little bit of time. Mugello, for some reason, comes really naturally, and I've been in a decent pace always when I race here with the Italian GT times, did some Fiat GT racing, and yeah, I really like this racetrack. It's definitely one of my favorites.
And what I find absolutely fascinating, and we're seeing good examples of that throughout the course of the racing that we're seeing this weekend here, and we are watching the Asia Pacific Ferrari Challenge cars, where if everything stays the way it does currently, Makoto Fujiwara would become the Copa Shell champion with Kazuka Yamaguchi P2, Yanbin Singh would be P3, and Michael Choi would be P4. Because it is so flowing, it's so physically demanding, it basically means as you exit one turn, Tony, you can't compromise your exit because that becomes your entry to the next turn. It is, as you said, it's like a sequence of non-stop turns all linked together, almost.
Yeah, you need to keep the car on the right racing line, not to overshoot the corner, and then the places where you have the long straight, the exit of the previous corner is super important. You can be really good in the tight and twisty section. You lose one corner before the back straight or the last turn, and you can lose 2 to 4 tenths really easily just by having a poor exit of that corner. So it's the same procedure everywhere. You need to fine-tune your driving and get all the crucial points right, but you need a lot of concentration here, and that's why good drivers make the difference here.
Here we've got some traffic that could come into play for this battle, and we're watching Kazuyuki Yamaguchi being chased by Jay Park at the moment. 550 car is driven by Kazuyuki Yamaguchi, and Jay Park is the one doing the chasing, and up against some back market cars now with just 8 minutes of the race remaining. Kazuki Yamaguchi and Jay Park then they're contesting this final podium place in the race for the Shell class. As you can see, battle for P2, Yanbin Zing, Yamaguchi, but it's Park and Yamaguchi which are the closest. Although after saying that, they have got onto the back of Yanbin Zing now. However, bear in mind that Yanbin Zing has been given a drive-through penalty, which to the best of my knowledge he hasn't taken yet, and that was for overtaking under the safety car. Now, as I understand it, Tony, you get 3 laps to take the safety to take the drive-through penalty you've been given. If you don't do it within the 3 laps, you get a black flag, and that's qualification, isn't it?
Yeah, that is normally the case. Yeah, unless, you know, team is in contact with the race direction and there is something to protest back, or they have an argument to point out for race direction. But I think at least the things we've seen on our screen today, there's not much to argue. So not much to argue, but normally that's the case. And yeah, 3 laps, you either in or then it's back up, black flag. Yeah, and there you go.
He's been disqualified because he didn't take that drive-through penalty. Oh, well,
yeah.
Do you know, for a moment, Tony, I was doubting myself. I thought, has he taken it? But he couldn't be in the position he was in had he taken it.
Exactly.
And I thought that was his last lap opportunity to do that. He's out of it. He's been disqualified. Now that's a real error, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when you do a mistake like that, normally you should follow the rules and yeah, serve your drive-through. And I mean, in this case, if he has a radio problem, he cannot hear his crew and not following the pit board, you know, just concentrating driving his race. But
you're being very charitable, if I may say, Mr. Belander, because I'm sure.
I made some mistakes also in my career. So
I wasn't going to highlight the mistakes, but I was going to say I'm sure there have been decisions that you felt as a racing driver were against you and were incorrect, but you still abide by the rules.
Yeah, there is not much margin to play, like saying like you take the checker flag and argue after. There have been few occasions though in my career, once in karting days and once actually at Le Mans 24 hours, that we had a penalty and we didn't serve it, and later on it was taken out by a marshal mistake.
Wow.
But those are really rare occasions, and as I said, you really need to like have the communication with the driver saying like, honestly, I really didn't do it and this thing didn't happen, and then you just keep carrying. Because if you serve a penalty and you feel that that wasn't the right case, after all, even if they say that
your race is ruined,
your race is done. Yeah. But that would not be my advice, not to follow the flags, not to obey the rules and follow what the race direction is saying, because 99.9% you have to serve the penalty and you have no case afterwards, and you risk also other consequences that even can touch your license or whatever, because even if you don't stop now on a black flag, it's not that they're gonna give you a bottle of champagne and good luck going back home. I think you have a meeting in the race direction, and
that's not a pleasant
party,
is it? No.
There's gonna be only few people talking, and definitely the driver is not the one.
What has happened to Philippe Pret? He had a 1.5 second gap. It's now down to half a second. Either Gomax has found something which he didn't have, or Philippe Pret is losing pace. And I'm inclined to suggest it's Gomax that has found some pace against Louis Pret here.
Yeah, now is the last time of the race, and I could see the leading car had the pace. He could pull out, but then not really extend the lead. The lead stayed the same, and now it's up to the tire life, up to the driver to keep handling, to keep pushing the race car to the limit. The handling is not the same anymore, is not the similar, and you can see the driver in P2 is really pushing hard. He has a loose race car, leaving black marks to the racetrack, really pushing hard. So this is the pressure time. The P2 car can push the leader into a mistake and that way trying to win the race. So he's not giving up, and this is the cool thing to see.
Absolutely. So Gomax is really pushing very, very hard. And if I'm honest with you, Philippe Pret looking perhaps a little bit more raggy as the pressure is mounted upon him. But we cross back to this battle that is going on then. And whichever way we've looked, there has been plenty going on. This is Lucian Janciaro that you can see in the all-yellow car, who's chasing down Alex Moss and Kent Chen. And ironically, they're all in different classes, but doesn't mean that the race action becomes any less exciting. Now, that was an ambitious move, Tony.
Yeah, that was a little bit poor judgment. I mean, the overtaking maneuver was way too late. There was really not a real place to overtake.
That has taken Alex Moss out of it, and
the contact was the defending driver's right rear tire, and the rear suspension broke straight away, and just too late maneuver, 100%.
And that means with just 2.5 minutes or 2 3/4 minutes, we're going to get a safety car, and you know what that means. It's going to be another checkered flag under the safety car, Tony, isn't it? We're not going to get that car recovered in the time, which for Philippe Pret is like a sigh of relief, I would think, because he was being caught by Gomez.
Yeah, what was interesting to see that the fastest lap time by the leaders was put out straight after the first safety car. So with the good tire life, cooler tire temperature, you push out hard, and then you can get the performance. And once they were in the racing rhythm, there were no big gaps, no big difference on lap time. So that's where often you take the difference is like when you have that safety car at the restart, you need to push and do the difference and gap yourself to the other cars.
When you see a gap, Tony, surely as a racing driver that wants to win everything, your natural instinct is to go into that gap, but just sometimes discretion is the better part of valor, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday and today I've seen some nice overtaking moves. I've seen some drivers clearly showing that they are going for overtaking, but I didn't see a real gap. I didn't see a real side-by-side action, so that creates a bigger chance of an accident. And like we saw here, I just think the car trying to overtake was just way too late, and just the speed. It looks like without the car, the 489 being there, looks like the yellow car would just overshoot the corner straight away. Like literally, it looks like he ran into the other driver, and not even trying to obey or follow the racing line. The angle of the accident was just to a car turning right, and he was straight into the rear corner. So you need experience, you need to find your limits, you need to find the right ways to do. I think that was an accident that obviously ended the race for both of those cars. And I mean, I think even the overtaking car got a big damage, if not a radiator or something. And yeah, definitely.
And what that means for us, of course, is that the race becomes something of the finish becomes something of a disappointment, because you never want to finish the race behind the safety car. Of course you do if you're Philippe Pret or if you're Makoto Fujiwara, which of course that does mean that he will take the Copa Shell Championship. But something I've talked to with Daniel Serra and James Collado and Miguel Molina, and indeed you in the years gone by, is what the whole concept of Ferrari does do with our racing activities is very, very structured in terms of learning racecraft, Tony, and that's actually it's something that Ferrari get very right.
Yes, safety first. That needs to be the first standard. The way the cars are being built, the way the safety harnesses are, the way everything is scrutinized, the way everything is obeyed by the homologation set by FIA to the driver equipment standards and so on. Then is the action on the racetrack. Tire supplier coming with the product that is really safe for everybody, good performance, good consistent grip, and then the racing standards. And on the racing standards, I think over the last, let's say 2-3 years, especially when us drivers doing it for living, we give our advice. It doesn't mean that we are the judge or we are the jury in the race direction, but we are giving our thought, our process, what goes through the driver's mind, what we saw happening there. And I think that opens the discussion, and there's a less saying like, oh, the race direction is always here to penalize us. That's not the case. But when you see clearly an action that is doesn't even look good for pro driver's eye, then we discuss in the race direction and we make the calls. And even yesterday, I was in the race direction. There wasn't a penalty, but after the race, I went to talk to the driver. I said, in the future, be more careful, because we viewed it multiple times. We viewed different angles and was really close for you getting a penalty.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't do anything. I said, I'm not here to discuss if you did it or not, but I'm saying that it was this close. You got a drive-through penalty. If you go tomorrow to the World Final, be careful, because we don't want you to destroy your race straight away on the start or on the opening lap. So it's part of also not always to penalize, but advise as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, I'm sure, as racing drivers, of course, you never see the race stewards as the enemy. However, you're always probably going to have maybe a different point of view to their point of view. What I've found fascinating, I've had the benefit of being in several drivers' briefings, and to give great respect to the racing stewards is that, you know what, they're never condescending. They're always talking with the drivers. And actually, Todd Snyder, one of the IMSA stewards, I've been in driver briefings with him where he's got videos of, this is a really brilliant overtake, this is not such a good one, and this is the reason why. So Ferrari really put a lot into the craft of driving.
Exactly, it's a win-win situation. We try to provide a fair playing ground to the drivers, but at the same time, if we are here to give too many penalties and stuff, we don't have drivers. So we need drivers to run the show, and we are there to set the guidelines to do great racing.
Right. We just saw, there's Philippe Pret, who's taken the win. We just saw in picture a few moments ago, Louis Pret. There he is, that's Philippe's son. Now, Louis lost the championship by a point, or we think he did, in the European series, just proving the point. The reason he got a penalty was for overtaking under a waved yellow, safety car. So that just proves the point. When there's a point in it, it's just not worth sometimes taking that risk, perhaps. That said, we don't know what the conversations were continuing between Louis and race control. Anyway, let me give you the top three. Philippe Pret, Max, and Imada. Then it's Fujiwara, then it was Yamaguchi and Jay Park, and then in terms of the AMs, Ray Wu, and Iritani and Kent Chen, the top three. But enough has been done for Makoto Fujiwara to take the Copa Shell Championship. Cars on the way back to the Parc Ferme area now. And there, Louis Pret, Philippe's son, holds the P1 board for his father. Something sometimes, Tony, that perhaps we forget, and I don't say enough in broadcast, is that you're the guy that's got to sit in that car and you've got to go and win the race, and you've got to do the work. You're out there on the track. There's a whole team of people behind you helping you, though, isn't there?
Yeah, that's the case in motor racing. I mean, the driver who gets a lot of credit, but behind there's endless hours transporting the driving stuff, the car, traveling, families, mechanics being away from the families. It's a never-ending process, and you need to have one thing in common, which is the passion for this sport, and that's what drives us drivers, but also all the crew, all the people working in this section of life or in this section of sport. And it's not always easy, but like these moments you need to enjoy. If you don't enjoy the winning, then something is wrong. And you need to give credit when it's time, and you need to suffer when it's time to look at the mirror and say, okay, today I made a mistake, but the winning and the great results is an award that gives you energy and keeps you going.
Here come the highlights then of a race, once again punctuated by some incidents and safety cars as we round out the Asia Pacific Ferrari Challenge season. The cars made their way onto the grid, and it was going to be a four-way fight going into this race for the Copa Shell Championship. So a lot at stake. The final standings with regards to Trofeo Pirelli and for the AMs had already been dealt with, but it was in terms of Copa Shell where there was still a championship to be won. Philippe Pret then was going from pole position. Max was always going to push him hard, but Philippe Pret got the first race start underway really well. However, it wouldn't be too long before the safety car would be called for. And here you can see a three-way incident that regrettably saw the end of Michael Choi's ambitions in terms of the championship, and also Andrew Moon, who was out of the race. In the meantime, that particular move under the safety car meant a drive-through penalty for the 568 car, and unfortunately for Yan Bin Singh, who chose, for whatever reason, seemingly to not take the drive-through penalty, it will be a black flag. So, David Dicker here on the inside, and from that particular angle, we couldn't tell whether someone came across or whether the gap just disappeared. In any event, it meant two cars together colliding, and there you can see the black flag. And that was a really rather bold and ambitious overtake, and brought out the safety car all over again. And unfortunately, that meant that the checkered flag would fall. And I'm almost tempted to say the Hublot safety car nearly did as many laps as the 488 Asia Pacific cars, Tony.
Yeah, there was still some good racing. I mean, you have the pressure for the start, you have the restarts that while you are leading the race and you have a small gap, you don't really wish for those safety cars. And at the same time, it gives and opens opportunities for the drivers behind the leader. But I would say overall good action. Drivers did a good job. A couple of accidents that caused some penalties, but good job.
What I always say is, from our point of view, from a drama perspective, sometimes safety cars can completely change the face of the race. So the drivers will be hustled off to the podium from the Parc Ferme area then. 3 podiums to come. Podium for Trofeo Pirelli AM, for the Shell drivers, and also for the Shell AM drivers. Trofeo Pirelli AM, Philippe Pret, P1, Gomax P2, and then Imada will take, and Nobuhiro Imada will take P3. Those are the drivers you can see on the podium then for the Trofeo Pirelli AM, which we assume will be the first podium that we will see. And we can hear Michele Mambrelli then. The podium is situated literally about a couple of meters and 1 floor down from where we are commentating from. And there you can see to the very right of your picture, Michele Mambrelli brings out the drivers, and Philippe Pret heads to the top step of the podium. The baseball caps will come off, and the national anthem will play out. Trophy presentation time. Our official Ferrari GT drivers are on presentation duties. That one looks like Miguel Molina. Oh, indeed it is. It's confirmed. Something we were saying about Giancarlo Fisichella, of course, the famed Ferrari GT driver. He is the quickest trophy presenter, Tony, you can know. It's almost like he throws the trophies at them.
Yeah, you know, the Italian way, so. No, Giancarlo is a super professional.
Indeed so. And if I may say, Tony, not a bad DJ.
Yeah, he loves to enjoy his life as well. Fast on the racetrack and fast outside the racetrack as well. I've had great fun with Giancarlo. We raced together. Yeah, I think the first year was 2010.
Yes.
And after that, we've been successful. But somehow the years we did couple of years back in America were really nice.
Yeah.
You travel over there and then you spend a lot of time together, not only with the race car, and those were cool years racing with the Risi Competizione, and a lot of laps, a lot of stories as well. So great time.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Always behaving though.
Oh, naturally. No, would never suggest otherwise. Interestingly, I did offer Giancarlo my Earth, Wind and Fire album when he was DJing, and he very politely said he did not need my assistance.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So Philippe Pret on the top step of the podium, Go Max on step 2, and Noburo Imada. But there's the winner, Philippe Pret, and that's a musical backdrop. There's Ram Jam, Black Betty. There you go. Got back to my radio DJ days there, Tony.
Yeah, these are great images. Again, we could see that the drivers with the great pace, the winning driver, really using all the limits of the racetrack, and also a lot of joy. I mean, really happy drivers, and you could say it's not easy to win, but when you do win, you need to remember one rule: celebrate.
You've got to enjoy it, haven't you, Tony?
Exactly.
You've got to enjoy it. So up next then, it is the Shell classification. And of course, not only is it the race classification, but we also have to bear in mind that Makoto Fujiwara, in taking the win, has done enough to seal the championship. So the top 3 then in terms of the Shell drivers: Makoto Fujiwara, Kazuyuki Yamaguchi and Jay Park then take their steps on the podium, and the national anthem plays out once again. Now, to be fair to the drivers on the podium, Tony, the baseball cap didn't come off until later because the F1 Clienti cars are going out on track, and there is therefore so much noise, I don't think they could hear the anthem.
Yeah, exactly. There's the F1 cars getting ready, and it's a tight schedule.
Yes.
It's a never-ending program for the whole day. I mean, you start 8 a.m. and we finish late, 5 to 6 p.m. in the evening. So great event, a lot of track action, and if you are a motorsport fan, or especially Ferrari fan, this is definitely a weekend to be in Mugello.
You're right. So the Shell podium, Makoto Fujiwara, Kazuyuki Yamaguchi and Jay Park then hold their trophies aloft, and they're enjoying their time on the podium quite rightly as well. They've expended the effort on the track and they get the just deserves, and the champagne is liberally sprayed on the podium. With one more podium to do, which will be for the Shell AM classification, as we get super slow-mos of the cars right now. P3 for Jay Park in the 525 car. P2 for Kazuyuki Yamaguchi, who drives this 550 car for Kon Sosaka. And for Kones Shiba, Makoto Fujiwara in the 513 car. So there we are, the top 3 cars, and the delight that's felt as you jump out of the car, having secured, and there Miguel Molina passes on the race winner's trophy, which is held aloft, and then the champagne shower concludes their particular podium in time-honored tradition and style. So, Copa Shell AM podium to come, where we'll see Kent Chen. Then we will see Atsushi Iritani and Ray Wu on the podium, P3 to 1 respectively. They'll be heading up towards their podium steps in literally a couple of seconds from now, as the F1 Clienti cars continue to make their way around this awesome Mugello circuit. And there they go, onto the podium. Of course, for these Asia-Pacific drivers, it's been a long haul into Europe and to Mugello. For this weekend, they're going to enjoy every single moment of it. National anthem time once again. If you're wondering why the top step is populated by 2 people, it's because Canticcia Tibzeri is there as well as best of the ladies. Lady racer on the top step of the podium as well. Once again, Miguel Molina making the trophy presentations. So P3, 2 and 1's done respectively. Best gentleman racer going to be there as well in and on the podium also. So with the trophies done and dusted, they'll all be held aloft. And then, of course, the champagne will be sprayed. And that means our broadcast comes to a close, which means, as always, I say a huge thank you to my friend Tony Verlander. Another great job on the air. And I look forward to seeing you tonight at the gala dinner that we'll be attending.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Tony Verlander then, 2-time champion this year. Great official Ferrari GT driver. And that's it from the Asia Pacific season for 2019. Bye-bye for now.